We are live.
Yo,
We are live.
We're back. It's Friday.
Woo! I love Friday.
Me too, my friend. Me too.
Welcome, everybody joining us. Welcome to those who are going to be watching this as a recording. We're just going to take a couple minutes, chill, wait for some people to join. So if you're watching this as a recording, you can either enjoy the music, pop along with us, or skip ahead a couple minutes while we wait for people to join. It's your choice. No pressure either way. But we're gonna be just chilling for a second here while people come in.
Oh yeah.
What's up with you, Caleb? How's your Friday going, man?
Friday's going good, man. It's been a productive week, that's for sure. We, as you know, are coming off of our company retreat last weekend. Was re-energizing and just like felt good to be around the whole crew, spending some quality time together, which was nice. And just kind of like blasted us into this week with just good feels all around. Everyone's feeling good. The week was productive, and man. So happy to finish off on this Friday. It's been good. How about you, bro?
Dude, the retreat was so fun. We went up to Flag. For those who don't know, we took the whole team up to Flagstaff, and it was so snowy, but like also beautiful. Having grown up in Illinois, like snow was kind of always my worst enemy, I feel like. But up in Flagstaff, there was like 3 feet of snow and the sun was out. I was like, okay, this is the type of snow that I can deal with. This is the good kind.
It was beautiful. Yeah, it was awesome. An amazing time for sure.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think like in terms of if you're gonna have snow and sun is the way to do it for sure.
Yep. I mean, I'm a Florida boy, but when it comes to skiing, I love skiing, man. That's one thing I wish I could do here more often that Florida does not offer, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure.
But skiing is so fun, bro. It's so fun. I love it.
Yeah, Florida, I mean, you have no hills, no mountains, and no snow. So skiing is actually like the complete opposite of what you can do there.
Literally. Like if I'm going to ski, I got to drive 10 hours at least.
Oh, yeah. Too funny.
It's pretty wild.
Alrighty. We got a couple people joining us. Say hey in the chat when you come in here, guys. I'm going to share this stream real quick.
All right. So while you're sharing the screen, sharing the stream, I'll kind of dive into, I guess, like the main topic for today. So one of the questions that Dakota and I get all the time because we live in the advertising world is like, okay, how do we set up a campaign, right? Like what should be my process? What are the things that I need to do to get an advertising campaign up and running? So Dakota and I are going to talk about that on this live today. We're excited to show you our process, kind of what we think about when we start to approach a new campaign. And this should give you a good checklist to kind of walk through every single step along the way. So I'm pumped to dive in.
Yes. I mean, I feel like no one actually talks about like the things that could go wrong. And that's kind of what we want to handle today. We want to talk about the things that could go wrong when you launch a campaign, because there inevitably are always things that later on you go back and think, why didn't I check that? So we're going to make sure that you know all of the things that could go wrong.
Yes. Yes.
Yo, Facebook user says yo.
And,
I don't know. It doesn't pull through the names, but what's up, Facebook user?
I love that. We'll have to figure out like how to make sure. Like, I wonder if you have to like approve StreamYard or something to have your like face show or whatever. I don't know.
Maybe.
But
all right, let's hop into it. Matthew, if you could fade out our driving music, whatever it is, we're gonna hop into it here while people are joining us. Once again, Caleb, the topic. Maybe we should put the topic up as a banner here so everybody knows what we're talking about. The ad checklist. Look at you. How did you? We have the same brain, I swear.
We have the same brain.
Literally, as I'm saying it, you're doing it. Sick. All right, we're going to get into it, guys. So the ad checklist. We're going to be talking today. We're going to be handling this a little bit more podcast style. We're probably not going to share our screen too much today. Really just talk through like examples of times where we've launched ads and maybe forgotten a step early in our careers, and or stuff that easily gets forgotten when people are launching ads. Stuff that really, if you think through at the beginning and take care of at the beginning, you're going to be set up for success a lot better. So this is the ad checklist. So Caleb, start us off. What is the most important thing number one to think through as you're like going in to launch ads?
Yeah. So there's probably so many different opinions on what it would be. But for me, I know when I'm approaching an ad, the very, very, very first thing that I'm thinking about is who. Who am I actually talking to? Who am I writing for? Who is this message that I'm creating going to be for? Who's reading it, right? I think that's absolutely the like first step that you should start at. So for me, one of the things that I'm always looking for right off the bat is who's that avatar, right? Do I have an avatar checklist? Have I thought about this audience and who I'm actually writing for? Because if you don't know who you're actually talking to, how can you expect your message to resonate, right? It's super, 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 super important to understand who that is. You got to know who you're writing for. You know what I mean? Like how could you write a letter to somebody that you don't know who's going to read it? You know what I mean?
Totally. And I think like the number one mistake, like when it comes to your audience, is most business owners or people who are writing ads, they just assume that they're the audience. You know, like they write as if they were the ones who are going to be reading it. Is that usually like, what do you think about that? Like, you know, if you're like the CEO writing copy, should you write ads that will only work for you? Or like, I don't know, like how do you?
Yeah, no, of course not. But you're right. That's definitely one of the first things that I think people do wrong is they just start writing because of what they think they would convert on, right? But a lot of times you are not your target audience. You know what I mean? And I think that people have to be able to understand that because just because you read something and you're like, this wouldn't sell me on this, that doesn't mean that it won't sell your target avatar on it, right? And so when you're writing, you need to understand who is your customer, who is that perfect avatar that's is going to buy your stuff, right? And speak to them. Don't speak to yourself. It's definitely a big mistake.
Dude, that's such a good point. I feel like, yeah, time and time again, you know, business owners just assume that like they built the business so they know how to best talk about it, right? And they know how to position it in a way that will convert. But the problem is if you don't put yourself in the shoes of your customer, your ideal avatar, if you don't put yourself in those shoes and think, what am I going to convert on if I'm them, right? What am I going to want to hear if I'm my target market? If you don't do that, then your copy is never going to work because you're basically writing for yourself. And you know, you don't want yourself to purchase, you want your customers to purchase. So that's a really good point, bro. And I feel like that gets totally tossed under the rug. Like people just don't talk about it that much because ultimately business owners specifically think that they just know what's best right away. And that is not always true necessarily in the marketing world.
100%, man. I think it's like it speaks to kind of the ego that sometimes comes along with being a business owner, right? And thinking that like, I know best, right? And I know exactly what's going to work. And being able to separate yourself from that and actually kind of get in the headspace of who's buying your stuff. You have to kind of like remove yourself from the ego a little bit, which it can be really hard for certain business owners.
100%.
Yeah.
What do you think is next? I mean, we talked. So number one, you're like, okay, before we launch ads successfully, we need to know who we're talking to. I totally agree. So one thing on that though, when you're like launching ads, are you changing the messaging for each specific like audience that you're targeting? Or are you kind of like using a generic, you know, because you're saying, okay, we need to know who we're going to talk to. Are you actually changing that ad copy based on the audience that you're targeting? Or I guess, how does that work usually?
Yeah, so I think the answer is yes, but to a certain degree. So I wouldn't be writing a new ad creative for like a bunch of different avatars that I've listed out. However, when you start to think about your targeting in terms of where are they at in your funnel, meaning like, are you talking to cold traffic or are you talking to really hot traffic? If that in that context, 100% you're changing your copy and your message because the people in the cold traffic don't know who you are. The people that are hot traffic probably have already gone through a ton of your funnel and they understand you and you're trying to get them across the finish line, right?
Yeah.
So your message to those two different groups is going to be very different. However, at a high level, understanding like your main customer avatar, that messaging should stay constant. In my personal opinion, it should stay constant throughout everything that you do. So
totally.
Really good like thing to bring up though, because you absolutely will change how you talk depending on how much someone knows about you already, right?
Yeah, it's almost like the level of intent, right? You know, if someone never has heard of you before, you have to kind of approach it as, I need to build trust. But if you're a brand that person has already communicated with before, or has sort of seen your things before, you can be a little more direct, right? You can be a little bit more intentional with your ad copy, for sure. Yeah, I agree.
Definitely. So what would you say, do you think, like, okay, so moving on, right? What's
Yeah.
like, you understand who the person is now. What do you think is like the next thing, right? Like where is your brain at now? You know, you understand exactly
Yeah.
who you're talking to. What's next?
So yeah, I mean, okay. So we're going through the ads checklist. Obviously, you've in this case, you've probably already written copy. You've already gotten some, photos or videos that you want to launch. Let's just say we're talking about Facebook ads, right?
Mhm.
On Facebook, the things you need really are copy. So the copy is going to include like the body copy, headline to go with that. You're going to need
Yep.
creative itself. So whether you're going to use a photo to launch with, or several photos, or a video, something like that. Like, let's just assume you have all of these things. If
Mhm.
you have all of these things, then the next layer of the equation is, in my opinion, like, what is the goal? What are you trying to get people to achieve? Right.
Yeah.
In our
So
space,
true.
we call that the CTA, right? What is the call
Yes.
to action?
Yeah.
So you can't just put an ad up and hope. You can't just cross your fingers and hope that something happens, right? You have to have
Yeah.
a very specific goal for that ad. Where people get lost, I think, is especially people who have kind of believed what Facebook has pushed, which is like, I can just push the boost post button, right? Like,
Yep.
I've seen time
Yep.
and time again, people have like a picture or a video that works really well, and then they're like, oh, I'm just gonna boost it, and they push boost, and then like, who knows what the heck happens, right? It just goes out to more people, but there is no
Yep.
call to action. There's no like
Yep.
clear goal, and that clear goal is the thing that's actually going to convert into conversions for you, right? So basically, think of it this way: if you have a link that you want people to go to, if you have a landing page, then that's your CTA. Your CTA is click the link below, right? That CTA, it might sound kind of ridiculous. You might be like, oh, why do I need to tell people to click a link? Obviously, they're going to click the link. That's not true. They won't obviously click the link. You have to tell them what to do. It's kind of
Yep.
crazy, but there's a reason why every YouTube video you've ever seen, people are like, hey, like the video, subscribe. At
Right.
this point in time, we know how to like videos and subscribe, right? We've been doing it for years. And yet they're still like the video, subscribe, because
Right.
it actually boosts their conversions, because a call to action, a clear call to action works. So
Mhm.
whether or not it's click the link, or book a call, or, fill out the form, or watch my free training, whatever it is, that CTA is so important to the conversion of the ad.
For sure, dude. Yeah, it's vital. You got to have it. You don't know, again, like, you got to know obviously who you're talking to. But once you know who, how can you write an ad if you don't know what the end goal is, right? So
Right.
understanding what that NCTA is definitely crucial. So,
Yeah, everything in your copy builds to that point.
yes, exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, exactly. You can't. The whole ad itself, literally, like, all leans on what you're going to finish with. You know what I mean? So definitely have that in mind. Which I think kind of like leads into the next step, which pretty much is, if you have the goal, right? You know what you're going to do. You know what you're telling them to do. Well, where are you sending them? Does that
Right.
exist yet? Right? Do you have a landing page? Do you have a funnel that actually works? So thinking through that next step, right, is understanding, okay, once they click, what happens next, right? You can't just have an ad and then you send them into the abyss. So the
Right.
goal leads to whatever that landing page or funnel is, right? So that's
Yep.
absolutely like vital, and definitely something
So
that you definitely have to have. Yeah.
for that landing page, tell me what it should look like. Because tell the people what it should look like. Because here's the thing: how many times have you heard, "Hey, I'm just going to send them to my homepage. I'm just going to send them to my website."
Yep.
Tell me why that doesn't work.
Yeah. So, dude, such a good question. Okay. Yeah. People all the time, they're like, so, like, we already have a website, right? What if we just like send ad traffic there? Okay. So, what you have to understand is that when you are sending paid traffic to a web page, you have to be able to track how that page converts. Okay. And a landing page that actually converts is very different than just a normal homepage. Okay.
Yeah.
Landing pages are specifically designed with a goal in mind, right? So for example, if the ad that you're writing is, hey, I want you to opt in for my free training, or hey, I want you to download my ebook, whatever it is, right? When you click that ad and go to the next page, that page is specifically designed to try to get the highest percentage of people to do that thing. So if it's opting in for the training, you better believe that page is specifically designed to say, I want everybody to opt into this training, right? There aren't distractions. There's not extra links. There's not extra videos. There's not extra ways for you to lose yourself, right? It's you're going in to actually opt in for that page, right? And so I think that's the biggest thing is you can't just send traffic to just some random page, right? You have to be very intentional because at the end of the day, you're spending money on that, right? And you want to know when I spend my money sending people to this page, they're actually going to do this thing. Okay.
100%.
So super, super important. Yeah.
And if you don't have that, what we usually call it is a leaky funnel, right? So imagine like there's a reason why we call marketing funnels, right? They funnel people through. Imagine you have like a liquid funnel, right? And you would start pouring liquid into it and there's a hole in the side. Well, you're losing some of that liquid. You're losing the volume that you're pouring into it. And the same is true for a marketing funnel. If you have links that are arbitrary, if you have distractions on that funnel that take people out of what you actually want them to do, the CTA, they will find ways to go other places and do other things. They'll click on the reviews button. They'll click on the testimonials button. They'll click on about us, and they will find other places and then you might lose them. You might not have that intention anymore. So I think, dude, that's such a good point. What you said, like basically if you don't have a landing page that is distraction free and only pushes people toward the CTA that your ads are also pushing to, you're going to lose a lot of people to distraction.
Yes. I think one of the best analogies or like pictures that I've seen people talk about when it comes to this is thinking about a ship, right? You don't want a ship that has holes in it, right? You want your ship to be sturdy. You want to be able to get where you're going, right? And when you have when you're sending traffic to a page that has all these different links and areas to leave, those are holes in your ship, right? You're just losing people that you've spent money on. So don't do that. Have a great landing page. Make sure that that's actually
100%.
designed.
So actually, I'm going to share my screen here in a second. I'm pulling up like the simplest possible landing page ever, just to kind of describe what it could look like. Like what we're describing here is something that's like, yo, listen, if people get to this page and don't do the thing that you want them to, then it's because your ad did not describe the page well enough, right? That's kind of what you're looking for. So I'm going to share really quick, like for 2 seconds, what an example of a page like this would look like. Give me 2 seconds because I'm learning how to use this software. Okay, here we go. Pushing share. Okay, so this is literally a landing page that we threw together for AdClass. Okay, this landing page here, obviously we have beautiful Caleb. Look at that sexy guy. He's there on the left side, just cheesing it up for the camera. And basically, all this page wants you to do is one thing: push the watch training button. Right. So in this scenario, your ads, your copy, everything is pushing to this page. When they click on this page, they should be on this page because they want to learn how to turn ads into profit without paying for an agency. And they want to just watch the free training. Right. So this is a great example here of like as simple as you can possibly make it, a landing page that converts traffic. On a page like this, like once you get really good at paid advertising, you're going to know exactly what this page can convert at or should convert at, right? For us, Caleb, anywhere from 20 to 30% would be killer on this page. And what I mean by that is 20 to 30% of people who click to this page should be putting their email in and clicking this button. In other words, achieving our CTA, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, that's just a quick example. Hopefully that's helpful for you guys to kind of see.
So true, man. Thank you for sharing. So now we know who we're talking to. We know the goal. We've got a beautiful landing page we're going to be sending people to. What's next? What's the next thing in the advertising cycle, man?
Yeah, and we've kind of already talked about how like the copy of your ad should line up with that landing page. We call that congruency. Like if your ad isn't really clearly stating what's going to happen next in the journey, then you're probably going to lose out on people. We don't need to touch on that too much. It's it feels like common sense congruency, but I know a lot of people forget about it. A lot of people find like ad copy that works and then they just use it. And they forget that it needs to actually line up with the funnel that they're sending to. What I mean by that is like ultimately, let's just say the call to action on your ad is click the link below to opt in for our free training. Then that landing page needs to have a free training button somewhere, right? Because they are going to that page expecting there to be a free training button. People remember what they clicked for. So if you send people to a page and now it says case study and not free training, that could be an issue with congruence, right? Something as simple as that needs to have the same language all the way throughout, needs to have the same outcome promised all the way throughout as well.
So true, dude. So true.
Yeah. Dope. So we've talked a lot about that. We've talked so far about who are we talking to, the audience, what's the goal or the CTA of the ad. We've talked about having basically a landing page that works and that is like very clear and specific. And we've talked about like the copy lining up with that landing page. So Caleb, what would you be checking next before you're pushing that publish button?
Probably one of the most important things that you could ever do, which is tracking. You got to do it, guys. So tracking is vital. I mean, at this point in the game, Dakota, I know you agree with me on this. If you don't have tracking installed properly, you are setting your money on fire. Okay. Yep. You have to understand how tracking works. You have to understand that when you're spending your money and you're sending people to that page, you have to understand what's actually happening on the other side. Right. And so this is why it is so crucial to make sure that you have something like Hyros, something like Triple Whale, something like Wicked Reports, like Northbeam. Yep. There's a ton of different solutions out there, but pick one and use it and actually use it and pay attention to it. Yep. Because unfortunately, on platform tracking now, most media buyers and people in our space would agree that it's pretty much garbage at this point. Like,
yeah, what do you mean by that? On platform tracking? What does that mean?
So meaning, okay, yeah, thank you. Sorry, sometimes I jump a little
bit.
Too
we
deep.
get going with the lingo.
Yeah, the lingo. So what I mean by that is when you launch an advertising campaign on Facebook, let's just say, typically in like when everyone was getting started years ago, right? All that you would have is you'd have your Facebook pixel installed on the website, and then that would tell you what's actually happening. So if someone clicks your ad, the Facebook pixel would report back to Facebook and say, hey, you had this many people opt in on your landing page. Okay. Well, over time, that has just gotten worse and worse and worse, especially with new updates that have come out like on like iOS, right? So as iOS continues to release new versions, they do things like, hey, do you want people to actually track you, right? And based off of that answer, that has really started to hurt the ability for Facebook and these other platforms to actually track things accurately. So what I mean by that is Facebook's basically their answer to this has been, well, let's just kind of like use our algorithm and our AI to kind of provide what we think is happening on the other side, right? So they basically like are sharing their best guess at, hey, based on how much you're spending and how many clicks the ads are getting, we think you probably got this many opt-ins on your landing page. I can tell you right now that like you don't want to base all of your money off of we think this happened, right? And so using a platform like Hyros installs what does Hyros do? Dakota, can you like explain like why that is better than using this on platform?
Yeah, we love Hyros here at AdClass. There's several that can probably do this job, but Hyros has been the best for us. And really what it's doing is like after somebody clicks on an ad, with on-platform tracking, it's kind of a black hole, right? Like they click on the ad and then we just don't know what happens from there. Sure, you could use like Google Analytics to guess and kind of see what pages, but you're never going to have that full user journey, user by user, with what happens after they click an ad. So really what Hyros does is it kind of paints a picture of like, okay, they clicked on this day and then they gave us their email on this day and then they booked a call on this day and then they purchased on this day. Even if it's a year later, we can track back that first ad click. We can track back every action a user took through the funnel. What that does for an advertiser is you can actually go back and see what ad campaign they clicked on, what specific ad they clicked on, and how it converted, obviously, right? So to have that data, now we're no longer like guessing on which ads to scale, which ads to cut. We actually have real-time sales data that plugs back into the ad platform and tells us, oh, that ad set has produced a 3 times ROI for the company. Let's scale that one and let's turn off the ones that haven't produced sale. Right. So it's a really clear way of like oh, I know what's actually happening in the businesses I work on. So Hyros does a great job there. I would say like even before Hyros, like getting there is kind of complex because you have to pay for Hyros and everything. But even before that, just tracking day over day what your ads are doing is something that people don't really do. So we always use what we call a PPC sheet, right? We have just an entire sheet in Google Sheets that basically every single day pulls how much did we spend, how many clicks did we get, and what else happened, right?
Yes.
Having that data is essential to success for advertising, because if you don't have that data, you just are guessing at what's working. Yep. Our human brains like literally cannot contain all of this stuff, right? So you cannot in your brain, you can't be like, well, I think last Monday was actually a pretty good day. Like, no, you're guessing at that. You need to have accurate data somewhere that you can reference back to and say, oh, actually last Monday we spent $137 and got 44 clicks. And that was worse than last Tuesday and better than last Wednesday. You know what I mean? So like you have to have that. Otherwise you're just guessing.
For sure, dude. For sure. So when you have tracking installed, right? One of the neat things about having efficient tracking is being able to tell your campaigns what's working, right? So what would you say is that next step in the checklist of you've got your tracking set up, but where are you actually telling the campaigns, hey, this is what I'm going after, right?
Totally. Yeah. So we call that optimization, right? What are you optimizing for? In paid advertising, what you're optimizing for actually matters way more than people make it seem. So the way it works is at the ad set level, and we actually did a training on this in the group a few weeks ago. I went through and launched an ad live in the group, all right, where I actually walked through exactly what we're talking about here. But I'm going to show you what it means on Facebook ads here. I'll share my screen really quick, and we'll actually walk through exactly what optimization means, what conversion event we're optimizing for, and it should bring some clarity on this piece. But this is one of the most important pieces on the success of ads that exists, especially on Facebook. On other platforms, it's the same, but Facebook for sure. Okay, so everybody you can see this, right, Caleb?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So here's a campaign, right? Here's a test campaign. When I click edit on this campaign, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so everybody can see this. They're going to give me some campaign options. I'm going to actually go through to the ad set level. I'm going to select an ad set. I'm going to show you what this means. So here's my ad set level. Now I've selected my goal of website, generate leads through my website. And then it asked me two things right here. It asked me what pixel I want to use. Pixel is basically just Facebook's way of tracking what's going on after people click your ad. So the pixel you add to your website so that when someone clicks an ad, Facebook now has the data to know, oh, they clicked the ad and then they did this, 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 and this, right? Once you know that, then you can actually assign value to what people do on your website. What I mean by that is you can add events, right? There are certain things called conversion events. You can see them here. And actually I will go here and add a link so that we can see all of the conversion events that Facebook uses. They have all of these events here, right? So you can basically say, hey, I want to track what happens in my funnel. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to add what Facebook calls a standard event. Standard events tell Facebook, hey, this is a standard way that people usually interact with marketing funnels. So this one called completed registration, typically we use when somebody gives us their email in some form or fashion. So completed registration would be added to a page in your funnel that basically tells Facebook, if someone gets to this page, we're going to consider that a completed registration, right? And so when people get to that page, Facebook now knows, hey, cool, they did something that we wanted. They completed a registration. It sends that data back to the ad platform, and it tells the ad platform, hey, this ad campaign has resulted in this many completed registrations. So what does that do for us, right? Why does that matter? Well, you can now optimize your ads towards certain events in your funnel now that you have them added. And the beautiful part is the more data Facebook gets over time about that event in your funnel, it starts seeing what type of people make it to that event, what type of locations, different interests that people are interested in, right? All of this stuff is building a database of Facebook now knowing what type of people convert on that event. So what that means is when you tell Facebook, hey, I want more people to click my ads if they're likely to convert on my completed registration event, Facebook now knows that, and it will go out and find the people most likely to convert there.
Yep.
Right. So when you optimize toward completed registration versus just traffic, let's say, just link clicks or something like that, you're going to see way cheaper registration costs in the long run because Facebook knows that that's what you're looking for. And it has all the data, man. Like, I don't know how it does it, but it has all the data. It knows who's most likely to put their email into a funnel. It just does. And so it's kind of crazy because you can get real sophisticated with it, right? You can go a step further. You can say, oh, well, actually, after they complete a registration, we also want them to book a call with us. Now, that's a much harder conversion to get. But if I put that into the conversion event window here and say, actually, I want it to be a booked call, it will go out and find people more likely to book calls. Yes. Now, your registration cost might be higher, but the booked call cost in the long run will be lower.
Exactly. Yep.
Pretty sophisticated stuff. If you have questions, throw them in the chat, especially if you're watching this recording, you're like, hey, actually, I don't understand this. Please put it in the chat, guys. We'd love to help.
Yeah. I know that's definitely like a little bit more of a deeper topic, but hey, if you want to launch a winning campaign, you got to understand those events, right? You got to know what you're actually optimizing towards. So, the next thing I want to ask you, bro, is I don't want to dive too deep into like copy and all that, because I know we've done a lot of trainings on that, and I think we've kind of hit home how important that is. So the next thing that I want to ask about is in the checklist of us moving on here is, now that you've got good tracking, you know what event you're sending to, what's the total budget? And so I think this is probably one of the most common questions I think that you and I both get asked is, hey, how much money do I need to go ahead and start my own marketing campaign, right? And so I'd love for you to kind of speak for a second to when someone asks you that, how much money should I start with? Like what is your typical like thought process on how to approach budget?
Great question. So I usually answer that question with a question. 2 questions, really. First is, how quick do you want to get results? Right? If you are not willing to spend a lot, but you want results quickly, I always have to break the bad news to you and say, listen, in paid advertising, it takes money to figure out what's going to work, right? You have to spend in order to see what's going to work. Slow spending is the quickest way to see a campaign fizzle out, man. Like if you're only willing to spend $10 a day, as an example, in the long run, you're going to wait so long to understand if that thing is going to work. So that's my first question back is like, what do you want to see happen? When do you want to see results by? That's going to help me figure out the budget. The second question, it revolves around KPIs. So KPIs, Caleb, as you know, key performance indicators. KPIs can be something used in any area of life. But in advertising specifically, what we use KPIs for is understanding for every dollar that we spend, what actions happen, right? Yep. There should never be a wasted dollar of ad spend in advertising. When we spend $1, we should expect certain things to happen. So what I usually do is I put like an example up. I say, okay, maybe not $1, but let's spend $100. For every $100 that we spend, what do we expect to happen? Well, we can start guesstimating some things. We can start thinking, okay, well, I know average cost per click for my type of funnel, or if I've run ads in the past, right? You can throw a number there. You can say, well, on average, if we get like a 1% click-through rate, and our ads are performing well, we should probably get clicks for like $2. Okay, so cool. We're spending $100 and clicks are $2. How many clicks did we get? Well, you just divide 100 by 2. We got 50 clicks. Okay, great. We have 50 clicks on my $100 in spend. What happens after they click? Well, we just talked about they go to your landing page.
Yeah.
We have a really awesome landing page now. Our copy is congruent. They know what to expect when they get there. So we should know how they're going to convert on that landing page. Hopefully we get, like I said earlier, that 20 to 30% opt-in rate. Let's just call it 20% for simple math, right? So right now we have 50 clicks going to our page and 20 of them are converting. So I'm going to literally just do 50 times 0.2. How many of those 50 people opt in? 50 times 0.2, 10. Thank you. I don't do maths.
No, you're good. You're good.
I was a Spanish major, remember? All right. So 10 people from our $100 in spend end up being a lead or a completed registration. Great. Awesome. Well, of that, you can continue that trend and you can say, okay, whatever my next step in my funnel is, usually it converts at 50%. Okay, great. So then of our 10 people, 50% of them go on to the next step in the funnel. That's 5. And then maybe you could say, well, and then we book calls at 50%. Okay, so of the 5, maybe 2 to 3, 2.5, book a call. Okay, great. Now we know on $100 in spend, we're probably going to get 2 booked calls, right? So then I ask the business owner, great. So just so you know, on average, if we spend 100 a day, we might get 2 booked calls. Is that enough for your business to succeed?
Yeah.
Well, in their head, they're going to go, well, you know, when a call is booked, we usually close it at 10%. I go, okay. So how many? So we need 10 calls to close 1. And it's going to take us 2 calls a day. It's going to take us 5 days to get 10 calls. So are you okay with 5 days for 1 sale? And usually they're like, no, we're not okay with that. I'm like, okay, cool. Then we need to spend more, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the conversation. So it's really just like, honestly, it's super simple math. People try to overcomplicate this. It's not complicated once you know your KPIs, but you have to know your KPIs first. So how do you figure out your KPIs, Caleb? Well, my opinion is you work with people like us who can like help you at the beginning, because it's really hard to figure out your KPIs. But what if you don't have help? Then what do you do?
Yeah. So, gosh, that's a good question. I think that like it's to understand, okay, what my KPIs are, if you're not working with like a marketing agency or whatever, is, to be honest with you, it's probably going to be trial and error, right? It's going to be sending people to a page and figuring it out yourself, right? Which is a lot slower and a lot more painful way to do this. When you already understand your funnel process, right? If you know, hey, I'm sending everybody through, let's just say, for example, a VSL funnel, right? Like I know each step of the funnel and I know what % of people should be traveling through each one of these, right? That's how you understand your KPIs. If you're coming to this and you're like, well, I'm going to make my own funnel, I'm going to figure this out, I'm going to do my own thing, you don't know how each one of those pages is going to convert, right? So you, to be honest with you, you have no clue. You have literally no idea how it's going to perform until you actually send traffic there, right? So you could have something that works or something that totally like flunks and does not work at all. So I think the key is, if your question is, well, how much should I spend? Really, to get your answer, to get what you actually want to figure out, you have to understand the model like of what you're sending people to. Because if you don't know, if you can't predict how someone's going to move throughout the process, then you're gambling with your money. You have like I could tell you, well, you should spend $5,000 or you should spend $5. It doesn't matter. You have no clue what's going to happen, right? So understand where you're sending people through, understand how they flow through and how many people will end up where you want them to, and then base your budget off of those numbers, right? Because you can then say, like Dakota was just saying, if I spend X amount of dollars, I know X amount of calls are going to happen or X amount of purchases are going to happen. Then make your budget, right? So yeah. Sorry, I get passionate.
That one's
about
a
budget.
Doozy, man. That one is a doozy. That's good stuff, bro.
Yeah.
I think KPIs are like the key to success. If you can't track it and you don't know what your goals are, you just will not succeed.
You will not succeed. Okay. So we're kind of almost nearing the end of our checklist here of the things that you should go through. So one of the other things I think that we haven't talked about, but is a giant arena of ads, because this is basically the ad itself, right, is the creative. So I'd love for you to just take 2 seconds to talk through, like, what are the different styles of creative that are easy to start with, and what do you see working best right now?
Totally. Yes. Right now in paid advertising for direct response marketing, short form content is king. So you're seeing it with organic for sure. But what ends up happening when like organic has a trend and people are really bought into like an organic trend, so like TikTok happened and then Instagram copied it and YouTube copied it with YouTube Shorts, and Facebook has Reels, like short form content is everywhere. What these social media platforms start doing is they start trying to get as many people in the world to use their short form as possible. And they make it basically discounted, right? So if you haven't, like if you've tried at all to do short form content on Instagram recently, like Reels, you can put something on Reels and then put the same thing on TikTok. And you'll notice that your Reel might get 10,000 views in 2 days and your TikTok will get 6. Why is that? Well, it's because Instagram is trying to incentivize people to create on their platform. It is pushing it everywhere, right? Well, what does that mean for advertisers? It's pretty much the same situation. They discount your CPMs if you run on those platforms because they want more content on those platforms. They want more
So
good
true.
quality ads on those sort of like placements, right?
So
And so
true.
what
So
we've
true.
noticed is like it right now, if you put really quality short form ads up, like, solid value driven short form ads with a clear CTA that actually adds value to the feed, they are so cheap to advertise and they crush. Like lead costs are cheaper, click through rates are higher, people are, converting on them at a much higher rate because those platforms want people to consume that content. Now, if you put up crappy ads and you're trying to like, fit like a square peg into a round hole, like you're putting like a YouTube video on a short form placement or something, that's not going to work. You have to actually create the stuff for that platform. But the beauty of that is literally all you need is an iPhone. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, hey, what's up? I have this thing, click the link below. And that actually works, right? Because that feels native to short form content. It doesn't feel like a
Yeah.
commercial.
Yeah, and so I'd love for you to speak to the second to this as well as like you just kind of held up your iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Speak to this for a second because I think a lot of people don't understand that like some of the ads that have spent millions and millions of dollars are not highly produced videographer ads, right?
Yeah.
They like, can you talk a little bit about how powerful just taking a clip on an iPhone can be?
Well, dude, I mean, it comes down. Yeah, I would say most of the ads actually, like that we've had a lot of success with, are not like studio produced quality stuff. Like we're not on TV here. We're not making a Geico commercial. We're describing products, simply and authentically. And think about it this way: when you're in an Instagram feed and you're scrolling and you're scrolling and you're scrolling and an ad pops up, when it's an ad typically, right? You can feel the production quality. You can feel that it's scripted or that it's inauthentic. And
Yes.
Instagram was created as an app that was supposed to be like share your authentic life. Obviously, it's come a long way since then, and now it's sort of like this beast of comparison and jealousy tool. But what it was at the beginning was like, hey, share pictures. I remember getting Instagram in high school, and I literally, my very first Instagram post was my school lunch for the day, right? Like that was the stuff that we used to share.
Yeah, I think I had like a picture of like strawberry milk or something so
Yeah, bro.
stupid.
It was by cheesy breadsticks, which why did they feed us that in high school? I don't know, bro. Now I can't even drink milk in my adult life because I had cheesy breadsticks for lunch every day through high school. But the point being, we were sharing just authentic stuff on these apps, right? Before
Mhm.
advertisers kind of came in. Well, as advertisers, like we realize now that the stuff that converts best is almost always stuff that feels like it should be on the app. Right.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
should not jar people when they look at it like, oh, that's an ad. No. We're not Geico. We're not State Farm. We're not doing like, NBA commercials or NFL
Yeah.
commercials or Super Bowl
Yeah.
halftime show. Most of the time, we don't need something to be insanely produced to convert. In fact,
Yeah.
authentic, real selfie style stuff works a lot better almost
Yeah.
always.
Okay, so before we leave the creative discussion, because obviously this is important, guys, right? This is what people actually see on the ad. So let's
Yeah.
stay on this just for one more second. But I'd love to talk to you a little bit about what if someone either A is too shy to shoot video and they're like, I just don't want to do it, or B, they just don't want to mess with video at all together. Have you
Yeah.
seen photos work? And if someone is going to use photos in an ad, what's typically the best practice for that?
Dude, good question. Yeah. I think photos are not as good anymore as they were once, but they still can definitely work. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to make your photo look like an ad. Don't
Mm,
do it. Like, don't do like, overlaid text and like, like a posed photo or whatever. Like, none of that will work because it quickly stands out like a sore thumb. What do people share in their feeds? They share pictures of themselves. So if you are at all related to your business and you're running ads for your own business, or, if you're running ads for somebody else, if they are in their business, you need pictures of people doing things that is
for sure.
relevant to your business, right? If you're like a coach or a consultant, you speaking on stage is a good one. If you I mean, I don't know, you name it, just authentic
Yeah, if
pictures
you're a
of
doctor,
yourself.
right? Like maybe post a photo of you in a lab coat or something, right? You working with your clients, whatever it might be. I mean, and honestly, it doesn't even have to be like anything crazy like that. We've seen very simple, just like selfie photos, right? Of them being outside or them hanging out with their family. That stuff works too, right?
Yep,
It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, so
totally.
the other thing that I just wanted to talk on too there is dynamic creative, right? Is like how that kind of
Mhm.
plays into photo ads. So if you are going to like use photos, like let's for example, say you're on Facebook, you don't have video, you've got a couple of photos you want to test out. Dakota and I have seen a ton of success with using dynamic creatives on those photos because it basically allows Facebook to choose what people are liking the most. And it just
Yep.
starts to display that one over and over and over. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say on dynamic creative, but definitely something that's worth testing out if you're like, hey, look, I don't want to mess with video, I don't want to shoot, I don't want to film or whatever. That's definitely a
Yep.
route that you can go. So
Completely agree, bro. Yep.
cool.
100%.
um
Love it.
yeah
All right, so let's get finalized here. First of all, you can hear me, right, Caleb? Because like there's
yeah
a little lag on the screen, but okay, dope. So we've talked about creative, we've talked about copy, we've talked about the funnel, we've talked about, basically like the CTAs, everything has basically lined up to this point. We're about ready to push publish, right? We're about
mm-hmm.
ready to say review changes and publish. Is there anything else remaining before we push that button that you always check? Like think through like your internal thing, like what in your heart right now is saying, oh wait, did I check this thing? What is it?
Yeah,
Because I know there's stuff like that.
there's two things for me that I always, actually I should say there's three things that I always like, I feel like I have to check before I can actually click the publish button. The first one is double checking my budget, right?
Yep.
That's like ridiculously important because you don't want to make sure there's an extra zero on there. So
It's
checking
happened,
budget,
bro. That has happened.
it's I can luckily say it's never happened to me, but I've heard horror stories from other people that oh gosh, I can't even imagine the pain. Okay, so definitely double check budget. The second thing is targeting, which we haven't talked a ton about, but I think that this is crucial too. Is like one, you want to understand who you're sending your ads to, right? So are you retargeting? Are you sending to some lookalike audiences, right? Or are you sending to just interest-based audiences on Facebook? But understanding your targeting strategy is huge. But the other thing that you want to double check before you hit publish is making sure that one, obviously those audiences are correct, but check the geo-targeted areas as well. We've had some weird things happen where randomly, like let's say that you have a client who only wants to run ads in Canada. And like, let's say for whatever reason, you duplicated out a campaign, and when you duped it, it removed the Canada setting. And now it's like you're targeting a bunch of other places that you just, that your customers aren't in. So definitely double check and triple check the targeting. And then the last one, which is a weird one, but it came to my mind when you said like, what kind of like makes your heart beat, is for me at least, is double checking to make sure you're running from the right page. Okay. So like a lot of times for whatever reason, like you'll go back and look, and after you've published, it'll just like the Instagram account's like not connected or something super weird, or it's like running from a page rather than like a profile or whatever. And it just double check that, because sometimes that gets a little bit finicky too. But for me, those are my like, oh, I'm gonna have a heart attack if if those things are wrong. I don't know about you, but
yeah, man, no, those are amazing. The budget being one that like, yeah, I triple check that thing. I'm like, all right, I set it at 100. I go back. Is it still 100? Make sure it's not 1,000. Okay, still 100. Yeah. Okay, good. Publish. That one is like incredibly important. But apart from that, what I always do too, there's a spot on Facebook ads where you put the actual URL that you're sending to. And what I do is there's a button next to it that says like preview URL.
Yes.
Always click that, see where it takes you. Like double, triple, quadruple check that it actually works when you click that button. And then what I always do too is I pull up the pixel helper. And so like I'll push preview URL, pull up the pixel helper, and I'll go through the funnel and actually test every page along the way, make sure that the conversions that I expect to happen are happening, that the funnel actually works, the redirects all work, that I can actually go from start to finish of the funnel successfully. Because that is I mean, honestly, that's the number one thing that people mess up. They just push publish and then they go and wait a few days to see what happened.
And they're like,
That
oh,
funnel,
like, why am I not getting anyone going through my funnel? Oh, well, maybe because the link is broken and you didn't test it.
Maybe just because the funnel doesn't work. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, like, this is important enough that I'm actually going to share my screen again and kind of walk through the way I do it. So that we can all see, because ultimately I've seen this ruin media buyers time and time again, because it's like, you just didn't test the funnel. Come on, it's that easy. All right, so cool. Here's our test funnel again, right? So what I do is I go to the URL, I refresh it, make sure it works. Okay. Then right here, this thing right up here, I'll zoom into it so that you guys can see this. Actually, I can't zoom in, it's a plugin, but you can see it up here, Meta Pixel Helper. Does that show up, Caleb? Maybe it doesn't show up on the share.
It might not. Does not show. I mean, I can see the button in
you can see the icon
bar, but yeah, I can see the icon.
Yeah. Okay. So that you need to have downloaded that plugin, because what it's going to do is when I push this watch training button, we'll see if it works. Okay. Takes us to the case study page, right? This case study page here should have another event firing, and I'm going to go up here. Yep, it does. You can't see this, but it says completed registration. As you guys know from earlier, that's the optimization event. So we're thinking into our heads, oh, okay, our optimization event is actually firing in the right place. That works, right? Now on this page, we're not going to wait for it, but there's going to end up being a button that pops up below here that says like book a call or whatever. I would test that and make sure that works. And we get to the next page, right? And I'm going to go through the entire funnel, making sure that every step along the way works. So after I click that button, it's going to take me to a page like this, schedule page. You can actually book a call with the team. Okay, does that work? I would actually go through and do a test booking and make sure that that works too, right? When in doubt, test it. You really, really need to have every single step in your funnel tested before you push that publish button. Honestly, that in my mind is the number one most important thing, because if you have not tested your funnel, chances are it won't work. There's always something that pops up.
There's always something. And continue to go back and test if you see performance dip, right? We see this being a crucial thing, right? Is like, you talked a little bit earlier about how we do the daily PPC tracking, and we're checking every single day. Hey, how are the stats look? How do the stats look? How do the stats look? If out of the blue, you see one day that's like, whoa, something just happened. This doesn't look right. Like the cost just skyrocketed. What's going on? Very, 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 very highly likely that something is going wrong in your funnel, right? So go back in, test it again. Yeah, something probably broke, right? So always be in tune with your funnel, making sure that every single page works properly. But yeah, absolutely use the preview link, use the Meta Pixel Helper plugin, do your testing. It's worth it, I promise.
100%. Yeah. Dude, I think that's it. I think we made it through the checklist.
We did. I think we did, bro. Yeah, guys. I mean, what we'll do as well is we'll post like our little checklist as a list below this video. So hopefully, maybe we can pin it to the video so that you guys can see that. But yeah, we're doing these trainings every Friday, guys. We just want to help out. We want to provide value. We want to answer your questions. So let us know. Make a comment on this video, even if you're watching the recording. Let us know, hey, what's the next thing that you guys want us to go over? One of the great questions that we just got a DM a couple of days ago was someone asking us about, hey, if you had to start all over and you didn't have a ton of money, what would you do? And so I think that's a pretty dope topic. I don't know if you want to do it, Dakota, but I think that'd be a really fun one for next week.
For next week, baby.
Let's go. All right, guys.
10 a.m. Arizona time every week. We'll be here. Mark your calendars.
Yes, we will. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon.
Peace and love, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye, guys.